street girl saves a billionaire's son, but the secret she uncovers changes everything. The city never really sleeps, but tonight felt different. The usual buzz of car engines and distant sirens were broken by a strangled gasp coming from an alley drenched in shadows. Lila was there, like always, scarf wrapped tight, eyes sharp, fingers twitching with restless energy. She had roamed these cracked sidewalks and forgotten corners for years, dodging punches, scraps, and the cold bite of loneliness. But nothing prepared her for what she found tonight. There, slumped against the graffiti-scarred brick wall, lay Ethan. His designer coat was torn, dark stains blooming like ink under flashing streetlights. Blood trickled slow down his forehead, glinting where a loose wire hung from a broken security camera above. His breath hitched, shallow, uneven. Lila's heart twisted. This wasn't some junkie or lost kid. This was someone else. Someone from a world she only glimpsed on skyscraper windows or those glossy magazines tossed in the gutter. His expensive watch caught the flickering light. Too rich, too clean to belong on these streets. She pressed her trembling hands against the ragged wound on his temple, feeling the warmth slip faster than hope. "Hey, stay with me," she muttered, voice rough yet steady. The city held its breath around them. The distant rattle of trains, the soft shuffle of rats in the trash. The beep of a passing taxi engine slowed as if confused by the scene. Lila dragged him into the narrow hideout. She called home, a battered doorway behind an abandoned bookstore. She tore strips from her shirt, wrapping his wounds with a care that felt foreign, almost electric. Ethan's eyes fluttered open, wild and confused. "Why help me?" he rasped. She didn't know how to answer that. Maybe, beneath her hard edge, a sliver of something softer had cracked open. Maybe survival wasn't just about staying alive, but about saving the broken pieces she stumbled upon. But as Ethan rested, weird things started to unspool around them. His phone, left buzzing wildly on the ground, held messages that blinked with threats wrapped in code. His fingers trembled when he punched in numbers, speaking names Lila didn't recognize, names heavy with power and poison. The faint glow from the screen revealed a photo of a man in a tailored suit smiling cold and sinister, the city skyline blurred behind him. Something dark ran beneath Ethan's shiny world, something built on lies and betrayal. Lila felt it like a weight in her chest, a truth that gnawed at her like a rat on wood. The city outside pressed in, its windows glowing like watchful eyes, its streets eerily silent in that moment of pause. She realized the danger wasn't just the alley, but the boardrooms, the dinners, the polished handshake deals loaded with poison. Just when Lila thought she might understand the puzzle, a message blinked on Ethan's cracked phone. No sender, no words, just a single line. "You're closer than you know. Stop digging or lose everything." Silence fell sharp and cold. Lila's gaze fixed on the screen. Her hands tightened into fists. The city's heartbeat thundered loud behind her, the weight of the secret nearly crushing her ribs. Trust? That had shattered long ago. But now she had a choice. Step deeper into the shadows Ethan's family hid behind, or vanish before the storm swallowed them both alive. The cold night air swept in through the broken window. Lila stood at the crossroads, the secret burning hot in her palms. One wrong move, she knew, and everything could burn. "Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact." Lila's eyes stayed locked on the phone, the message burning into her thoughts. She could feel the weight of her decision crushing her chest. The city outside, usually buzzing with life, felt like a ghost town, waiting for her move. Stay with me. Ethan, just hold on, she whispered, urgency pulling at her voice. She smoothed back his hair, trembling fingers brushing against the blood on his forehead. Out there, somewhere in the chaos, lay secrets that could bury them both. Ethan blinked, a flash of clarity cutting through his confusion. What do you know? He croaked, pain lacing his words. Not much, but I know you're in trouble, she replied, scanning the dark for threats. They'll be coming for you. We need to. The phone buzzed loudly again, startling her as it slipped from Ethan's hand and clattered onto the ground. Something sharp twisted in her stomach as she leaned to pick it up. Her heart raced when she saw a message that changed everything. Don't trust her. The sender was marked unknown. Lila's breath caught. What, Ethan, who is this? I don't know, he stammered, panic bubbling in his gaze. I need to get out of here. The jagged edges of betrayal twisted in on her. She barely felt the cold wrapping around her feet as she stared at him. Get out, you're hurt, you need? More messages appeared, flooding the screen. Stop her. Do whatever it takes. Lila's gut plunged. She held the phone closer, fingers trembling over those words. She could feel a storm brewing. Ethan struggled to sit up, eyes darting like a trapped animal. You need to leave now. Panic flooded her veins. Leave? You're the one who's... But before she could finish, the world shattered again. A sudden crash echoed from the alley entrance, drowning her voice in chaos. In a heartbeat, two shadowy figures emerged. The streetlights flickered ominously above, throwing them into stark contrast. Slick suits, sharp eyes, and guns gleaming in the faint light. Lila's heart thundered in her chest. Breathing echoed sharply in her ears. Ethan! He twisted toward the voices, eyes wide with realization. Fear wrapping around them like barbed wire. No, I can't let them. Before he could finish, one of the figures lunged forward, grabbing Lila by the arm. She hissed, fighting back instinctively, her fists flying. Let go of me, she yelled. The man grinned cruelly, the glint of danger in his eyes. You shouldn't have meddled. Girl, she felt panic rising, like a floodgate threatening to break. But as she was dragged backward, she caught Ethan's gaze. Something flickered there, something broken yet fierce. I'll find you, Lila, he shouted, desperation cutting through the fear. Trust me. In that split second, she realized Ethan wasn't just a victim. He was a player in this dark game. But what was the game? Who were these men? She couldn't let everything, her life, her hope, be snatched away just like that. Everything felt unreal, like they were stuck in a nightmare. The memory of that message crushed in her mind. But there was a gnawing feeling. What if the danger wasn't just outside, but entwined with Ethan's very being? Just as Lila prepared to scream. Again, a blinding flash lit up the alley. The sudden sound of shattering glass screamed through the air. Gunshots rang out. Ethan's pained shout cut through the din. Get down! Chaos erupted. Shots fired. Confusion swirled around them like smoke, thick and suffocating. Figures shifted, shadows morphed. Lila felt the ground shift beneath her as she fell to her knees, her mind racing. And then it struck her. What if the truth she was grasping at was not what it seemed? What if the shadows closing in were not the only danger? A scream of her own rose up, but she choked it back. She could feel the walls closing in. The unspoken words hung thick in the air. What was Ethan hiding? And how deep did the secrets run? With every heartbeat, she realized that everything had changed in that chaotic moment. The game was on, and if she didn't figure out the truth, there would be nothing left to save. The chaos swallowed them whole. Lila's heart raced, pounding like a drum against her ribs. The echoes of gunfire twisted in her mind, sharp and jarring. She squeezed her eyes shut, the darkness behind her eyelids bursting with blinding light as she braced for impact. Time stretched. Then, silence. A sudden stillness hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. She blinked, dazed. The alley was a battlefield now, bodies shifting, whispers crawling like bugs over the cracked pavement. A figure loomed, but she couldn't see clearly. The eerie glow of streetlights flickered uncertainly above, bathing the scene in a ghostly haze. "Ethan!" she shouted, fear slicing through her chest. She scrambled to her feet, but her legs felt like jelly, rooted to the ground. She watched the shadows clash, the dark suits moving with precision and purpose. Then she saw him. Ethan was crumpled against the wall, blood pooling beneath him, a painful reminder of how fragile their world had become. His eyes were fixed on her, wild and desperate, but there was something else, something deeper, something sinister. "Stop," he roared, voice raw. "Don't come closer." Her heart dropped. She hesitated, confusion clogging her thoughts. "What are you talking about? I can't leave you." "Get out of here," he yelled. But there was a strange urgency behind his voice, a crackling energy that made her skin prickle, like a warning. Then it happened. A sharp sound sliced through the air, a piercing scream. Lila turned toward the source. A woman, unkempt and wild-eyed, burst into the alley. Her clothes hung in tatters, and she clutched a bloodied knife, trembling hands slick with crimson. "She's a threat," one of the shadowy figures shouted, aiming his gun at her with grim determination. Lila's breath hitched. "No, don't!" Lila screamed, adrenaline pumping. "She's just scared." But before she could leap into the fray, the woman lunged. The blade flashed under the streetlights, slicing through the distance in a blink. A shot fired. A scream wrapped around them all. The woman dropped. Her body crumpled to the ground like discarded paper, but a haunting silence fell next. Everything paused. Lila felt the air thicken. The chill crept through her skin, cold and clammy. Ethan's eyes widened, confusion morphing into something darker. No, why is she here?" "Ethan, do you know her?" Lila asked, eyes darting between him and the woman on the ground. Just then, she caught a glimmer of movement from Ethan's watch. The screen flickered. "Don't," he shouted. "Don't look," but she couldn't tear her gaze away. The images swirling on the screen changed. A family photo flashed. Ethan, the woman, and a boy. Lila's breath hitched as recognition struck. The boy looked so familiar, but she couldn't place him. Then something inside Ethan cracked. "She's your sister." "What?" Lila gasped, the truth crashing over her like a wave. "How could you let this happen?" Ethan's voice trembled as he stumbled forward, reaching for the woman. But before Lila could process it, another message appeared on Ethan's phone. "Elena knows too much. End her." The world tilted. Her mind raced. How deep did this go? She clenched her fists, processing the impossible twist. Ethan's sister. Someone had orchestrated this madness. You. But then Ethan shifted, dark shadows chasing the light from his eyes. "They'll come for me now." A fire ignited in Lila's chest. A mixture of anger and fear. "Why didn't you tell me?" But all he did was shake his head, tears brimming, a pitiful look in his eyes. Panic welled as the chaos closed in again. She felt the weight of everything they had just learned. No one was safe. The scream of sirens grew nearer, piercing the cold night air. Ethan's face twisted, desperation clawing at him. "You have to run, Lila." "What? No, we fight." But the thunder of footsteps echoed behind them. Shadows loomed large, and in that moment, with danger pressing in, she realized Ethan wasn't just a pawn. He was pivotal in this deadly game. The truth felt like a monstrous beast, greedy and hungry. She took a step back, confusion twisting like a knife in her gut. Would she betray the boy standing before her, or trust her instincts? Everything hung in a delicate balance. There was no going back now. What was she willing to lose? And then the world shifted again. A voice rang out in the darkness, clear and cruel. "You thought you could hide forever, Ethan? Time to end this." All Lila could do was stare. Her heart pounded, clarity crashing over her like a storm. They were standing on a fragile precipice with secrets thick in the air and time running out. The truth was closer than they both realized. Ethan's expression twisted. as if the words had struck him hard. "They're here, we have to go." But the air was thick with fear. Lila's heart pounded, and doubt clawed at her chest. "No, not without you." A figure stepped from the shadows, his presence unnatural against the chaos. The glow of the streetlight illuminated a face that both froze and electrified the moment. It was a man Lila didn't recognize, tall and imposing, with a flash of cold blue eyes that pierced through the dimness. "Ethan," his voice cut through the night, smooth yet venomous. "How touching. Did you think you could keep this hidden forever?" A chill swept through Lila as the man's gaze landed on her, assessing. "And who might you be? The pawn he's chosen after all." Ethan's panic turned to rage, his arm shaking in a defiant gesture, not one of protection, but a challenge. "Stay away from her. She's got nothing to do with this." But the man chuckled, a sound so icy it sent shivers through Lila's bones. "I beg to differ. She's the key, isn't she?" Lila felt her skin crawl. What did he mean? Ethan's hands trembled, and she could see desperation playing across his face, like he was cornered, stripped of defenses. "I'll protect you, Lila," he forced out, as if saying it could change everything. "Protect her?" The man scoffed, stepping closer. "You can't even protect yourself. You're so consumed by the chaos of your family's secrets that you forgot the first rule: trust no one." "Stop!" Lila yelled, but the words felt weak against the deepening dread. She was caught in the middle of a storm she never asked to be part of. Then something caught her eye, a flash from the corner of the alley, a glimmer of silver, a gun. "Watch out!" she screamed, adrenaline racing through her veins. But in the blink of an eye, Ethan was moving, throwing himself in front of her. Time felt like it slowed as she watched, helpless, as the figure pulled the trigger. The bang echoed, sharp and explosive. Lila screamed, her voice splintering the moment. But instead of Ethan taking the hit, the man staggered back. He clutched at his stomach, eyes wide with disbelief. "What?" he gasped, blood blooming dark against crisp white fabric that stained the alley like a nightmarish oracle. "Get down!" Ethan pulled Lila to him, shielding her against the wall as chaos exploded outside their secret world. The shadows shifted into a blur of panic and confusion, sirens wrapping the scene like a twisted lullaby. Then, unexpectedly, more figures emerged, each one dressed in dark suits. The gloom surrounded them, black, thick, menacing. There was a flash of recognition on Ethan's face, an unreadable blend of horror and understanding. "Run, Lila!" he shouted, the urgency in his voice breaking through the confusion. But she couldn't move. "What is happening?" she gasped, fear constricting her throat. Her gaze flickered back to the man on the ground, breathing hard, blood pooling out. "You don't understand," he croaked, voice strained. "It's all a game, and you're caught right in the middle, Lila." Something clicked behind her eyes, a dawning realization that sunk deep, cold and heavy. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, the injured man laughed, a harsh, cracked sound that felt wrong, unnatural. "You thought Ethan was protecting you? You're walking around in the dark, holding a piece of the puzzle you'll never solve." With shaking hands, Lila felt her heart drop. More questions raced through her mind. "Why? What are you talking about?" "Your father, a real player behind the scenes." "But you're just a pawn, Lila. Just a pawn." The words echoed in her mind, each syllable hammering home a truth she could hardly grasp. Betrayal burned a path through her heart like a firestorm, a shockwave leaving ash in its wake. Ethan's face twisted as he processed what had just unfolded. "No, you can't believe him." But Lila couldn't look away. The mystery was unraveling tighter and tighter, and every truth revealed was a dagger to her heart. Who are you really, Ethan?" Before he could answer, another gunshot rang out, this one deafening, echoing off the brick walls like an omnipresent curse. Someone screamed. The scene hit a fever pitch of activity. Adrenaline surged. Through the chaos, Lila felt an undeniable deep ache creeping through her, the familiar sensation of being trapped in a web spun by unseen hands. As she clung to Ethan, reality shifted like smoke around her. Angry whispers, betrayal, family ties twisted into something dark and sinister. The ground beneath them felt unsteady as the shadows rolled in again. And just like that, everything Lila thought she knew about love, trust, anything, and choices fell away in spiraling uncertainty. Who was she really? And when the truth finally came crashing in, would it be what she wanted to hear? Ethan's expression twisted, as if those cold words had cut him deep. No, you can't believe him, Lila. Panic swirled in the air as Lila felt her heart racing faster. What do you mean? You're saying I'm just a pawn? The tension wrapped around them, clinging like mist, and all she could think of was the chaos closing in. Before he could respond, the man on the ground, still gurgling on his own blood, looked right at Lila and wheezed. You're deep in this. You just don't know it yet. Your father is behind it all. Ethan shook, his head fiercely, desperation etched on his face. Don't listen to him. He lies. Does he? The man wheezed out a laugh that turned into a fit of coughing, crimson spilling over his lips. You know nothing. There's a reason they want you both dead. Just then, another gunshot reverberated through the night, and a piercing scream shattered their fragile understanding. Lila's gaze darted to the shadows again, fear tangling in her gut, when suddenly the world exploded with movement. Figures dressed in dark suits swarmed into the alley. But there was something wrong. Their eyes glowed, unnaturally bright, almost fiery in the dimness. They moved with unsettling grace, predatory yet elegant. Ethan, Lila screamed, her breath hitching in terror. We have to go. But Ethan was frozen, staring at the approaching figures with horror. No, this can't be happening. Before she could process how to escape, one of the figures reached for Ethan, fingers outstretched. Time to face the truth, he snarled. Suddenly, Lila felt an overwhelming surge of anger mixed with fear. Get away from him. She shoved herself in front of Ethan, fists clenched. But before they could react, the unthinkable happened. One of the suited men spun, and out flew a flash of pure light. It hit Lila square in the chest. She gasped, the breath knocked out of her. The world blurred, colors swirling. Then, as if time had stopped, the alley around them shifted. Everything faded, until it was just Lila. Standing alone in a misty void, confusion washed over her, and she fought to stay grounded. Where am I? Her voice echoed unanswered. Out of nowhere, a line of images started playing in her mind. Flashes of a dark room filled with screens, her father's chilling smile, men whispering about power and secrets. She stumbled back against the weight of it all, lips trembling. Just as she grasped for clarity, something pulled her back. She gasped again, and the void shattered like glass, reassembling into the alley where Ethan still stood, staring wide-eyed, but with an expression of sheer disbelief. What happened? Lila's voice cracked. He was trembling, tears brimming in his eyes. You did something. I didn't know you could, but then... Everything shifted again. One of the figures took a step closer, a knowing smile unfurling on his lips. Ah, the illusion holds no more, does it? She's more than she seems. Lila's heart sank. What are you talking about? A strange glint in the man's eyes told her it wasn't fear they were feeling, but a perverse excitement. You were meant to uncover this, Lila. You're not just part of the game, you are the game. Ethan's mouth fell open, pain mixed with something darker flickering across his face. What? Then one of the suited men stepped forward, and it hit Lila like a thunderbolt. The similarities in their features were undeniable. You're my brother. The world fell silent. Lila felt coldness seep into her veins. Questions spiraled through her mind. Brother? No, it can't be. This doesn't make sense. But the figure simply nodded, a twisted satisfaction blooming on his face. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? You've been living in a lie. Your whole life was a facade. Ethan took a step back, shock plain on his face. No, this can't be. But it was too late. The truth had erupted in their lives like a sudden storm. Are you ready to embrace who you really are? The man taunted, leaning closer, darkness swirling in his presence. Lila's heart pounded louder than the chaos around her. What did this mean? What was real? The words echoed in her mind, wrapping like chains around her thoughts. Are you
ready? Could she handle this? They were no longer just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for everything they thought they understood. And as she stood there, her pulse racing in uncertainty, she felt that the real battle had only just begun. Ethan stood there, frozen, as his brother's words crashed over him like ice water. Lila searched his face, desperation knotting her stomach. Ethan, what does this mean? Are you really his brother? His gaze flickered, torn between fear and anger. No, I don't believe it. He's down. Just then, everything shifted. The bruised alley pulsed as if the city breathed in time with the chaos. Lila felt the very ground vibrate, a tremor that deepened into a shake, leaving her stumbling for balance. What the hell, she gasped, gripping the wall as the vibrations intensified. The shadows around them warped and twisted. The suited men shifted, their expressions changing from fear to something akin to anticipation. Then, without warning, the air erupted in a blinding flash. Lila shielded her eyes, heart racing. The explosion reverberated around them, knocking her flat against the pavement. In that split second, time slowed. Her ears rang, and she felt weightless in the chaos, like she was suspended in a moment that stretched into eternity. And then as the dust settled, Lila's heart dropped. Emerging from the smoke was a figure, the same tall man from before, but he wasn't alone. Standing beside him was a woman, her face obscured by a hood, but unmistakably familiar. Elena? Ethan's voice cracked, disbelief coloring his tone. The woman lowered her hood with a graceful motion, revealing not just her face, but an identical mark across her neck, a crescent moon tattoo. Lila's breath caught. Is that your sister? Elena's eyes, cold and fierce, locked onto Lila's. You really have no idea, do you? Before Lila could respond, the world tilted again. The alley shifted, walls warping into something otherworldly. She gasped as reality spun, throwing her into a swirling vortex of memories, images of a life she never lived. Your father is our father, Elena stated, voice calm but carrying the weight of 1,000 storms. He's a player in a game far bigger than any of us could comprehend. Wait, what? You can't be serious. The words spilled from Lila's lips, disbelief hanging heavy as shadows engulfed the alley. This has to be a trick. Ethan shook his head, horror morphing his features. Lila, why didn't you tell me? How could you hide this? Elena stepped closer, eyes piercing. It's not about hiding. It's about survival. He's been using you both, feeding off your ignorance. Suddenly, Lila understood. She wasn't just caught in a family feud. She was the pawn in a machination that ran so deep, it muddied the waters of reality itself. No, this can't be how it ends. The alley trembled again, and the air thickened with tension. They were all trapped, skin crawling with fear. Gunshots still echoed somewhere outside the alley, reminders of a world that spun out of control. But then, in the eye of this storm, something shifted. Light flared from the crest of the buildings above them, and a deafening siren wailed from every direction. The shadows recoiled, and a new figure entered the fray. A man in a long coat, face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. Time's up, Elena, he shouted, voice booming with authority. You've led them right to us. And just like that, everything imploded. Light wrapped around Lila, blinding her. She felt herself being pulled back, the truth spinning out of reach. Lila. Ethan's voice was a distant cry, suddenly dulled as if the universe was swallowing them whole. Don't go. She reached for him,
fingers grasping at the fading image, panic clawing her throat. But the light consumed everything. And then, darkness. The chaos collapsed, leaving Lila teetering between two worlds. Questions spun like wildfire. Was this the end? Or only the beginning? And who really was she in this tangled web of lies? The darkness felt heavy and thick, like a weight pressing down on Lila's chest. As the blinding light faded, the alley came back into focus, pulsating with shadows. Lila blinked, trying to shake the remnants of confusion from her mind. Ethan stood there, eyes wide, seemingly caught between disbelief and dread. The man who had called himself Ethan's brother, this stranger with familiar traits, was still on the ground, bleeding out and breathing heavily. She could feel the tension crackle like electricity in the air, setting every nerve on edge. But then the ground shook again. This time, it wasn't a soft tremor. It felt like an earthquake had struck the very foundation of the city. The air was charged with panic. "Lila, get back," Ethan shouted, pulling her behind him. She clung to him, heart racing, as pieces of brick and dust fell around them. The shadows morphed, swirling into something darker. The suited men exchanged grim looks, their expressions shifting from arrogance to fear. Before Lila could process this chaos, someone stepped out from the darkness, an unrecognizable figure, moving with confidence that made Lila's pulse quicken for all the wrong reasons. Clarity sharpened, revealing a striking woman with fiery red hair and an aura of control that was almost magnetic. "Stop this now, Elijah," she commanded, her voice clear and chilling. Lila felt a rush of adrenaline. "Who are you?" she demanded, glancing at Ethan. He didn't respond, his gaze locked onto the woman with a mixture of shock and recognition. "Mom?" Time froze. The world tilted. Lila's breath hitched. Ethan's mom? But she looked younger, vibrant, with a fire in her eyes that didn't fit the role Lila had imagined. "Yes, I'm here," the woman replied, stepping closer, her voice softening. "I never wanted you to find out like this. We need to leave. Now." The gravity of her words shattered the atmosphere. Lila's heart raced in confusion and betrayal. "What? You're the one behind this? You, your family? It's all a lie?" "No, it's not a lie," Ethan shouted, stepping forward. "You—" But the woman raised a hand, silencing him. "Listen, there's not much time." Elijah groaned on the ground, a pained expression twisting his features. "You can't take them, Karen. Not after everything we've built." Lila turned to Elijah, her mind reeling. "You've known this whole time?" "Karen," Ethan echoed, looking at his mother. The shock was palpable. "You're working with him?" But before she could respond, the alley erupted again. A vehicle screeched to a halt, headlights blazing, illuminating the chaotic scene. Dark figures spilled out, armed and ready. "Get down!" Lila screamed, covering her head. But Ethan remained rooted, staring at his mother. "Why didn't you protect us? Why did you let it come to this?" "Because," Karen's voice broke, raw and trembling. "You needed to know the truth. You have more power than you realize, and they want to control it." Suddenly, Lila felt the ground beneath her shift again, but this time it wasn't just an earthquake. Shadows twisted, revealing a swirling mass of dark energy, forming into a grotesque shape that made her stomach churn. "Get back!" Ethan shouted, making a move to protect her again. But Karen stepped in front of him. "Stop!" she yelled, her voice ringing with authority. "You need to embrace your power, Ethan. It's time." But as the monstrosity loomed over them, a realization gripped Lila with icy fingers. This wasn't just about family secrets or betrayal. It was about a dark legacy that threatened everything. And then, the most shocking revelation pierced through the chaos, like a blade. "Lila," Karen's voice dropped to a whisper, her eyes widening. "You're not just a pawn, you're the key. If you don't unlock this power together with Ethan, everything we know will crumble." The air grew thick with tension. Lila's heart raced, as everything she thought she understood spun wildly out of control. What? Power? Stand together. Focus. Before Lila knew it, the world flickered like a broken light, and in an instant, a blinding flash erupted. She squinted against the brightness, a prickling heat pulsing through her. When her vision cleared, she was not in the alley anymore. They were in a vast room, cold and sterile. White walls shimmered under a harsh fluorescent glow. It felt like a lab. Lila turned, disoriented. Ethan stood beside her, confusion etched on his face. What the hell just happened? But there was no time. The air buzzed with energy. Lila's instincts kicked in. We need to move, Ethan. They could. Before she could finish, a voice echoed, deep and resonant. You shouldn't have come here. They whirled to see a figure at the far end of the room. He stepped into the light, revealing a face Lila recognized but never fully understood. It was Marcus, the man her father had trusted, the man who had always lingered in the shadows of her family's life. Marcus? Ethan gasped, eyes wide with disbelief. What are you doing here? But Marcus just smiled, chilling and confident. I've been waiting for you both. It seems you finally uncovered the truth. What truth? Lila's voice trembled, uncertainty creeping in. What are you talking about? The smile widened, an unsettling grin. Your family is intertwined in a web of deception. You were never just a pawn, Lila. You are the orchestrator. Ethan's grip tightened around her wrist. No way. That doesn't make sense. Lila's just... But she is, Marcus interrupted sharply. Just like your mother. Both of you hold the power to shift destinies, and it's time you embrace it. The world tilted again as Lila processed the whirlwind of information. My mother? What do you mean? Suddenly, Karen stepped forward, eyes flashing with a fierce resolve. Lila, it's true. Your mother was never just an innocent bystander. She was one of them, a powerful player. What? Lila's heart raced, the betrayal hitting like a physical blow. You're lying. Am I? Marcus leaned in, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Your mother forged alliances, manipulated events. She was part of a secret society that has been pulling strings for generations. And now it's your turn. No, Lila shouted, shaking her head violently. Her world felt like it was cracking apart. I don't want any of this. But before the weight of her words could settle, the walls began to shimmer around them, reality bleeding into something surreal. Lila felt lightheaded. The floor beneath her could vanish at any moment. Then a new wave rushed through her, a sense of knowing mixed with rage. That's it, isn't it? She looked Marcus in the eyes, a fire igniting within her. You want me to step into this darkness. You want to control me. And just then, the ground trembled, rumbling deeply. Shadows curled around them again. A familiar voice whispered through the chaos, soft yet compelling. Lila, they're lying to you. She turned, her heart racing again. It was Elena, the woman in the alley, stepping out of the shadows with an air of authority. Your mother wasn't just using you. She was protecting you from people like him. Lila blinked hard, trying to process this new twist. Protecting me? How could she protect me when she's in this mess? Elena's eyes hardened with determination. Because you're stronger than you know, Lila. They want to exploit you for their own gain. You need to choose. Who do you trust? The room shook again, but this time it wasn't just the atmosphere. The weight of truths and lies hung thick. Time turned sluggish, but one thing became clear. Everything she thought she knew was about to unravel. Choose wisely, Lila. Elena warned as the shadows coiled tighter around them. Everything hung in the balance, and as the chaos swirled, a question echoed in Lila's mind. Who would she become when the dust finally settled? The chaos reverberated through the air, thick with tension. Lila felt her heart racing as she faced Marcus, the truth of her lineage hanging like a blade over them all. Shadowy figures shifted around the room, the hum of uncertainty curling into a vice around her chest. But just as the weight of everything settled in, Elena's voice pierced through. They can't be trusted, Lila. You know this. The walls felt like they were closing in, the air crackling with danger. And just when Lila thought it couldn't get worse, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness. Damn it, Ethan shouted, confusion rippling through his voice. Where are they? before Lila could respond, a piercing scream shattered the silence, echoing down the dim corridors, haunting and desperate. Every instinct in her screamed to run. She scanned the darkness, heart pounding against her ribs. Lila! Ethan's voice was hoarse, full of fear. Stay close. But just then, a blinding light erupted behind them, flooding the room with a chaotic blaze of illumination. Lila squinted against the brightness, her pulse hammering. When the light receded, everything changed. Marcus was gone. Just like that, as if he had never existed. The strange ambient hum dropped to an ominous silence, leaving Lila feeling suspended in disbelief. What just happened? Ethan's eyes darted around, searching for answers. Then, as if the universe had a wicked sense of humor, a loud bang reverberated from the floor above them, shaking the very foundation. Fear gripped Lila's throat. What was that? Elena stepped forward, her expression hardening into determination. We need to get out of here, if they're following us. But before she finished, another sound sliced through the air, a chilling laugh, low and sinister. The shadows parted to reveal a figure cloaked in darkness. Leaving so soon, the voice dripped with malevolence, sending chills racing down Lila's spine. It was a woman, tall, with an aura that seemed to consume the light around her. Who are you? Lila demanded, anger bubbling underneath her fear. The woman smirked, stepping closer. You don't recognize me, do you, after all this time? Lila's heart dropped. Something in the woman's eyes was chillingly familiar, and suddenly a memory flickered to life, a dusty family photo, blurred edges around the faces. An unforgettable smile. No, it can't be. Surprise, the woman said, arms wide, elegance mixed with cruelty. I'm your mother, Lila. The one you thought was gone. The one who left everything behind. It felt like a punch to the gut. Lila staggered backward, astonished. You're lying. No, the woman said. It's all true. I faked my death to escape. You should thank me for that. Ethan stood frozen, shock painting his features as he shared in Lila's confusion and disbelief. You knew. Karen, her mother, the woman Lila thought was gone forever, chuckled softly, as if savoring their reactions. You've been pawns in a game far bigger than you realize, in a game I created. The floor seemed to tremble again, shifting like the foundations of their reality. Lila's mind raced. Everything she thought she understood shattered into pieces. Why would you do this? Why us? The truth is a weapon, my dear, Karen said, voice smooth. And you are the most powerful weapon of all. Suddenly, the room was filled with whispers, shadows swirling as if alive. But there are others who want that power, the woman continued, her voice rising above the chaos, and they will stop at nothing to claim it. Lila could hardly breathe. The weight of her mother's revelation crashed down on her shoulders, suffocating. Is this why you left? Is this why you let us think you were dead? Karen's smirk twisted into something darker. You were safe, that's all. That matters. But safety felt like a lie. A cruel joke. We need to leave, now, Ethan urged, grabbing Lila's arm, pulling her back toward the door. But before they could take a single step, Lila locked eyes with her mother. You're not in control anymore. This power, it belongs to me. Lila, Ethan warned, fear lacing his tone. But the challenge ignited something within her. Shadows gathered as she felt the pulse of energy surge through her veins. Then another echo slammed through the corridor. A new presence, powerful and oppressive. The very air felt charged. You think you can defy me? A low growl resonated. And in that instant, Lila understood. This was just the beginning of a battle she never chose. As the walls began to shake, echoing the fury of ancient truths and lies, she whispered under her breath, "What have I awakened?" The answer loomed in the darkness, shifting shapes and sinister promises surrounding them, and with every heartbeat, she felt the ground crumble beneath her once more. What other secrets lay buried with her? Would she be strong enough to handle the truth, now that she stood at the crossroads of power? The shadows pooled around Lila like a thick fog, wrapping around her with a density that suffocated. Her heart raced, a drum in a battle zone. Her mother, no, Karen, stood there, casting a long shadow, the truth spilling out like ink across the floor. Ethan looked at her, confusion etching lines
On his face, eyes darting between Lila and the woman declaring herself as a long-lost savior turned harbinger of chaos.
Lila, Karen said, urgency tightening her voice, you need to awaken that power. We don't have the luxury to waste time.
What power? The words came out sharper than she intended, but they felt necessary, grounding. She needed to understand, to reconcile this betrayal.
Before Karen could respond, the walls reverberated again, and the specter of darkness drew closer, hungry. You're too late, Karen, a disembodied voice echoed, filled with malice. You can't run from this anymore. Her heart dropped.
What do you mean? She gasped, desperate for answers, for clarity amid the calamity.
Your legacy isn't just a game of shadows. It's
a war that has raged long before you came into the picture.
You are the one meant to make a choice, the one meant to change the outcome, the voice continued, deepening the sense of foreboding. The figures around them seemed to blur into one, a melding of light and dark forces vying for control. Lila felt terror clawing at her insides. I don't want any part of a legacy built on lies. Then what do you want? Karen implored, stepping forward, sincere yet desperate, her own fear trickling into the space between them. The crack in her facade was painful to witness. You can walk away, you could. No, Lila interjected, her voice a tremor but fierce. I won't run. I won't let
this define me. In that moment, the shadows coiled tighter, sensing her resolve.
Without thinking, Lila reached deep within herself. The power she never recognized flickered to life in her core. A warmth, rich and alive, flowed through her veins. She could feel it, the energy that had always been there, waiting for her acknowledgement. Ethan took a step toward her, his trust in her like a lifeline. You're stronger than you know, Lila, he whispered, determination shimmering in his eyes. With newfound clarity, Lila focused on the swirling darkness. This is my choice. Her voice rang out, steady and unwavering. I claim my power. I will not be a pawn. The shadows writhed, and light burst from her, a radiant shockwave dispelling the
darkness around them. It engulfed Karen, and surprisingly, Elena stepped forward, merging their strengths into a united force against the creeping malevolence.
Together, Elena shouted, the fierceness of her voice cutting through the chaos. In sync, they formed a barrier, pushing the darkness back. Lila's breath came in rapid bursts, feeling the culmination of her past, her choices, and her newfound identity. We're not alone anymore, she shouted, a rallying cry. As the oppressive force retreated, Marcus's figure dissolved into nothingness, caught in the brilliance of Lila's light. The shadows shattered like glass, revealing an empty corridor behind them, a passage to the unknown. Let's go, Ethan urged, pulling Lila toward the path. She hesitated, glancing back at her mother, whose expression was
a mix of horror and pride. Karen began, but Lila stopped her with a look.
Whatever you are, whatever you did, I'm not done with you. You'll have to confront this legacy, but I choose my path now. With that, they moved ahead, the air electric with possibilities, the shadows receding. Lila felt liberated, as though the world was spinning in the right direction for the first time. As they reached the end of the corridor, light burst forth, a new dawn washing over them, hinting at a future untold. The power that had once threatened to engulf her now surged like a river, strong and unstoppable. Together, they emerged into the light, a unified front against the past. Lila knew the journey was just beginning, but she embraced it without hesitation. Whatever lay ahead would be theirs to navigate, together. And in that moment, as laughter mingled with tears, she felt a weight lift. The shadows scattered like ashes carried away by the winds of change. You have to subscribe right now so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Keep the conversation alive, and let's unravel more tales together.